Good morning and welcome to LRP exclusive at the LRP Tower here in downtown Hammond. We're missing somebody. We are short one, so Antoine Clemens will be in shortly. He'll be joining us, joined by Tasha Clopton, Media Director at Cosmopolitan Community Church. Nice to have you back again, my friend.
Thank you. I love coming here.
Yeah, we love having you come in. I'm sorry. Normally I'm more prepared. I normally bring the donuts in, but
I'm fat enough. We'll move on.
we were just talking about, I was on a bike ride yesterday for 17 miles trying to get rid of COVID-17.
Listen.
This one right here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a lot of stuff that we want to get to today. You're here particularly because of the schools and what's going on with that. So we want to talk about that. We also want to get into a little bit about what happened in downtown Chicago.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard, and I'm sure everyone has by now, but in case you haven't, chaos did erupt in downtown Chicago early this morning. It all began about 12:20. Police were called to reports of a mob seen on Michigan Avenue. Videos that were posted on social media showing very large crowds that are breaking windows and entering stores along the Mag Mile and also on Wacker, on Wabash. A lot of damage done to the jewelry district.
Yeah.
You had mentioned that one of the things that you had heard was somebody who was breaking into one of the buildings.
The owner was called. He said he got a call about 2:30. This was on ABC 7, and he came down, in an effort to protect his store, and encountered the looters and said, he asked very politely, could you please spare his store? And he said that they responded very politely, no. And he said they were not aggressive. He was not fearful, but it was very clear that they needed him to move along because they were going to do what they came to do.
Listened to the press conference this morning with Mayor Lightfoot and the chief of police and a number of different aldermen and alderwomen that were involved with the press conference this morning, laying out how this became a very organized event. Yeah. Is the best way that they could put it. That a lot of it was set up through social media. That when all of this happened, again in the early hours of this morning, it was caravans, literally caravans of cars that were heading into the downtown area. As they did the last time, they raised the bridges. Yeah. They shut down the exits coming in and out of the city. And they will have numerous press conferences throughout the day today with Mayor Lightfoot and other aldermen that are involved with this. So we're going to get into that a little bit, and we're also going to get into Mr. Trump wants to be on Mount Rushmore. And I know Antoine has a couple of comments about that. So we're going to get to all that in just a little bit. You're watching LRP Exclusive. Thanks for joining us. We'll be right back.
And welcome back to LRP Exclusive. I'm here.
You are.
You make it.
I made it. I made it.
He's here.
Traffic wouldn't allow me at first, but I'm here. I'm happy to be here because I can't tell you what happened while we were on commercial, but Tasha Clopton gave me a great hello, one of the greatest hellos for the morning. But you got to be in the studio for the exclusive. But that happened here on Exclusive.
But she's taping this too.
Oh,
so
we got some behind the scenes. So
literally.
Stay tuned to her.
You'll never.
And we wasn't recording, so you can't see it. But it is a great show today. Wow, my morning is bright now, but great morning thus far. But let's get into some not so great news of what happened last night in our great city of Chicago, my hometown. And I was downtown Chicago on a little date with just me, myself, and I. That's all I get nowadays. But just enjoying the lakefront, and just things began to explode. Not literally, but just rioting and looting began, and I hightailed out of there and got home. And when I began to try to find out what's going on, as I explored social media platforms, and this morning, about 8 o'clock this morning, the mayor, Lori Lightfoot, as well as the superintendent of police, came out and did a press conference, and we began to find out what took place. So there was an incident in Inglewood on 57th and Racine, if I'm not mistaken, and in the Inglewood community.
Aberdeen.
Aberdeen, where there was a gentleman that, or it's an altercation that took place, and the police came to break up the altercation, and one of the gentlemen began to shoot at the officers, and the officers returned fire, and now the suspect is in critical condition at a local hospital. Immediately the community began to rally around this situation, and regardless of the witnesses that was in place based off of my source, the community, because it's with the tension that's going on with the police brutality and the racial injustices and things like that, the community began to flare up. Why did you shoot this young man, et cetera, and social media accounts began to take over, and the looting, let's go loot was the pretty much the story behind most of those social media reports. 15 minutes into these posts being made, the CPD began to be informed that this was getting ready to happen. They responded immediately. As I was leaving downtown, I seen the fire trucks and blocking off roads and streets, and immediately, I tell you, in less than, say, 15-20 minutes, the looting began, and they broke into store after store and started shooting at officers. Officers began to shoot back. Civilians began to be injured, and these were shooters from the rioting group shooting at the police. They missed the police officers, shot a security guard as well as just a regular citizen, and the police began to get involved. 100 people have been arrested thus far, and more to come. Mayor Lightfoot's message to the group of rioters that you will they will see consequences for the actions from last night. Let's get into the story.
Yeah, they are slowly starting to open up the bridges again. Most of them, except for I believe LaSalle was the only one that was still down, but they raised the bridges immediately so that they would be able to keep as much impact as possible. The Mayor Lightfoot this morning, an extremely angry Lori Lightfoot, who, by the way, we were talking about this earlier, has to go to bed every night going, why did I take this gig? Why did I take this gig?
I think anyone elected office, I've had those many nights for 4 years. I did the job.
But at this point, the bridges are slowly starting to open up again. CTA had been shut down. The Metro services and the South Shore lines going in and out of the city have been, they were not affected by this, but the CTA was. Those are slowly starting to open up again. And the curfew is going to be in place again tonight, as it was a couple of weeks ago when we went through all this. The curfew is going to begin at 8 p.m. If you do come into the city of Chicago after 8 o'clock, you will need to provide some type of identification and proof that you are required to be there. Obviously, the different essential services will continue, but if you the best advice was pretty much what was given by Mayor Lightfoot earlier today in the press conference, that if you don't have to be here, don't be here. There's a lot that has to be sorted out. The cameras, I did notice in some of the stores this morning watching the footage that the cameras had been pulled from the ceiling so that they wouldn't have any footage of what was going on. However, what the people didn't realize is that it's the cameras on the outside that are the ones that will capture you, your car, your drivers, your plate. So when they say that they're coming for you, Mayor Lightfoot and her group, she's basically what she's done with the police is all days off have been canceled. All the police are on a 12-hour shift. The Detective Bureau has been put on notice to develop a specific task force to go out to deal with this and to reach out and find everybody that was responsible for the disaster that happened on Michigan Avenue. You know, the Mag Mile's not magnificent anymore. It is, when this has happened, how many times now? I don't even know how many times this has happened, where there's been, you know, not only the rioting, but the flash mobs that are hitting the Mag Mile. Well, now they are getting to the point where, yeah, we will come after you. We have got the proof that we need. And the biggest issue, and Antoine, you and I have spoken of this many times, it's not the biggest problem with all of this is a judicial problem, that they are not able to hold everybody. And that, from what I understood from listening to the press conference today, is being changed drastically as we speak. So there will be, in the words of the police superintendent, there will be arrests, you will be dealt with. These are felony charges that will be labeled on you, and we are coming for you. So we'll see where it goes from here. But as far as the city itself, again, the bridges are starting to come down again. CTA is going back in, is opening up again. But the curfew will begin tonight at 8 o'clock and go until 6 in the morning.
Tasha, you want to chime in?
I just think about, so I don't live in the city anymore, but my parents do. And so I'm wondering, so if I needed to get to them, you know what I mean, am I going to be delayed with a stop, which is, I'm not opposed to it, but now I've got to, lose some minutes to explain why I'm going, you know what I mean? My license doesn't say I live in the city anymore because I don't. I'm just thinking about all of the people who will be adversely impacted due to the actions of a few. And it's very disheartening. It was not a protest. It was an opportunistic move to get some stuff. There's a difference. And there were differences back at Memorial Day weekend. There were the looters, but there were the legitimate protesters. And then there were the anarchists. But this, based on what we've seen so far, this was just an opportunity, and it's really unfortunate. So I heard as I was watching the coverage, first I saw it on Facebook, so I check Facebook and my Bible app when I get up in the morning, and I said, what are they talking about? And I turned on the TV and they talked about CVS and Walgreens being looted. Okay, so here we go again with people who may or may not be able to get their medicines. Or just things they need. Maybe they don't drive. Maybe Walgreens and CVS was the lifeline. It's very frustrating because it takes away from the work that is being done on the ground. All you hear on the news coverage is this. The community organizations, especially the smaller ones that are in their very localized areas, they're not getting the coverage. And so now here we go again with this black eye to our reputation as a city. It's very unfortunate.
So I stand with us when we're right, and I will call us out when we're wrong.
Yes.
This last night was just wrong. It was beyond wrong. And it was a bunch of criminals that took advantage of a situation that was a misinformation that was put out. I spent my morning and I got up real early to call some sources close to the Chicago Police Department. I needed to hear, and again, they were very close to not releasing things until the superintendent made his announcement at 8 o'clock, but I needed this information because I knew what I was getting ready to do at 10 o'clock this morning and come in and talk to you, those that watch the LRP exclusive. And when you talk about misinformation, this was a massive misinformation campaign where people that really didn't care about what was the right information or the wrong information. The information is the young man that was shot was in the wrong. This time he was in the wrong. And he was in the wrong because what he was doing prior to being shot at, and then the fact that he opened fire on the officers when they were trying to arrest him. And he is now in critical condition. And then the answer to this, without even knowing the facts, we act sometimes without even knowing the facts before we can even, we're Facebook investigators, we're Facebook detectives, we're Facebook officers, and we refuse to find out what is the facts before we speak out. I do nothing because I know that the good book says do not make temporary decisions. Don't make permanent decisions in a temporary state of mind. Sure. And we cannot make permanent decisions in a temporary state of mind when we're angry, when we're in our feelings. We need to make sure that we are cognitively understanding what is going on before we begin to act. And what the consequences are now, and Don mentioned that they pulled the cameras out. This is the digital age, people. These
All
are-
right. Good luck. As you walk in front of the live cameras in the news. Seriously?
and the funny part about it is, now I'm trying to be serious for a moment. This is quarantine, right? We're supposed to be social distancing and wearing masks. Why do none of these people have masks on? That's another story. But and I see the commercial sound, but we're going to pause commercials. I got to get this out because this is very important. That we understand there is legitimate cause going on. With the Black Lives Matters and legitimate protesting that's going on and stuff like this, it hinders the legitimacy of what the massive cause and the real cause is. And we don't care. And I say we, I mean the people that were out there, because we wanted to go and get some stuff. We needed to go get some stuff. That was more important than the bigger cause that we're trying to fight for. There's no justification about what happened last night. Don't use George Floyd. Don't use racial equality. Just use the fact that, don't use that I was going to steal so I could feed my little brother and sister.
No.
None of that.
Because they can't eat nothing in the Gucci store. Nothing.
And you can't sell those Apple products because Apple is already actively tracing those Apple products as we speak.
I couldn't believe when I said, so they work in the Apple store? Are they clear on the technology behind?
Oh man, I don't get it. But that's when we're talking about unorganized, and it was just ridiculous. And I agree with Lori Lightfoot, Mayor Lightfoot. I agree with the superintendent that what we seen yesterday, there is no excuse for. It is simply criminal acts that was taking place last night, and they're looking at the fact that back in Memorial Day weekend, when those individuals arrested, the prosecutors, the judicial system, they was like, okay, because of what was going on, they was like, you know what, tensions are flaring, people are emotionally attached to this, so we're not going to prosecute, we're going to drop charges, we're not going to, and so people are now emboldened with the fact that, oh, we can go do this and there's no consequences. Let me be the first to tell you. Well, I'll be the third to tell you because Mayor Lightfoot said it so eloquently this morning. There will be consequences. There's already been 100 people arrested. There's a task force in place right now as we speak to watch the countless hours of social media. And then we have crazy criminals nowadays that we go and re-record ourselves doing crazy things in Facebook, Snapchat, because I'm gonna sell this stuff on Snapchat, Instagram, whether it's in your personal inbox, and that's what people don't understand. Your personal inboxes, for those people that's out there just doing crazy stuff and sending news, by the way, you know, those things are monitored by the social media platforms, and they have to cooperate with the authorities when necessary to turn over your personal information. And matter of fact, it's not personal. You don't own your Facebook pages. You do not own your Snapchat pages. You do not own your Instagram pages. Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook own those pages. So now all of that information that you think is out there for your own self and the people in your timeline, your friend list, is now being turned over to the proper authorities. When you're right, I'm going to stand with you. When you're wrong, I'm going to call you out on it. And each and every last one of you that were out there last night doing this crazy stuff because of misinformation and not understanding what goes on is wrong. When the police is wrong, they're wrong. When they're right, they're right. When you're wrong, and when you're right, you're right. And I'm going to stand by what's right all day long. We'll be right back with LRP Exclusive. Welcome back to LRP Exclusive right here in beautiful downtown Hammond at the LRP Towers. At the LRP Network. There was a tongue twister. I was messing up right there.
All right. You did it.
I got it out. Well, we're going to get right to the next topic. Mount Rushmore to get a facelift, maybe.
Look, I heard over the weekend the greatest analogy yet about Trump. And I have used it, I don't know how, it's like when you hear a really great joke and you can't wait to tell everybody about it. Donald Trump was born on third base, and he's trying his damnedest to let everybody know that he hit a triple. Okay?
Ooh.
That's the analogy.
Somebody practiced it all night, by the way.
I just, when I heard that, I was like, that trumps, so to speak, the old line that I had, that he's the kind of guy that you want to buy him for what he's worth and sell him for what he thinks he's worth. The very idea that he brought this up clearly shows just how demented this old fool is. And you really want to sit back and go, Jesus God, who was supposed to watch Grandpa today? You got the 74-year-old nut job that's out there pretending to run the country. He's not running the country, okay? And then he, in the face of the governor of South Dakota, says to the governor of South Dakota, I want to be up on Mount Rushmore. I deserve to be up on Mount Rushmore. And she busts out laughing. Everybody in the room is kind of doing one of those deals. The guy's, how much more proof do you need? He was born on third base, and he's selling everybody the idea that he hit a triple. That is exactly where this guy is. And this week, we're going to find out who Biden is going to pick. I'm a kid on Christmas Eve right now. I can't wait to find out. Before you got here, we were talking about it. It would be my wish. Susan Rice gets picked as vice president. Kamala Harris gets picked as attorney general. And Joe just kind of sits back and lets these two run everything. That would be my August gift. Because just the basic idea that we've got a president of this caliber and this stature who wants to have his head put on Mount Rushmore. The other four would run. They would get up and leave.
For the sake of not being called into HR, I asked our late friend Bishop Bullwinkle to give us his opinion on this this moment. Walt, if you may, please.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
He said, hell no, to the no. Absolutely not should President Trump be on Mount Rushmore. I hope I don't get you in trouble with Pastor Clopton, but
y'all,
listen.
I told y'all, Jesus rolls his eyes at me every day. Y'all don't even know why. We'll talk about that off camera.
This is ridiculous for a man that think he needs to be on Mount Rushmore. Now I get why the folks on Mount Rushmore is on Mount Rushmore. That's a whole nother topic and discussion for another day. But President Trump, out of all the other presidents that has come before President Trump, he deserves to be on Mount Rushmore. He wants to be the fifth head on Mount Rushmore.
Well, you know, I think what we should do, and you know, I think we have the power here at the LRP Network to do this. I think we need to pool our resources, okay, to gather up all of the people that we know in power to hold a telethon. Now, the reason for the telethon is this: we want to hire a helicopter, and we are going to take Biff up on top of Mount Rushmore, and we're going to set him up on top of Mount Rushmore. And I said, there, now find your way down. Nitwit. That you want to
Don,
be.
you're picking on the President of the United States this morning. I just want to throw it out there before the angry messages come into our inboxes after the show.
Oh, they're already here.
Oh.
You have a delete button, right?
No, I just let them stay. I don't even delete them.
When I saw that yesterday, I just thought, oh, what an asinine comment to make. Good God. Wow. Really? Okay.
You can rarely render me speechless.
I got nowhere to
Here
go.
I
I got nowhere to go from that.
All I, Bishop Bullwinkle, one more time, Walt. One more time.
Oh my God.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
To the no. That's all we have to say about that. It's hard to even get into the conversation on this issue. Let's just move on to something else.
Expeditious.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but you know, we had our screaming moments, but this is just a comical.
Pull your hair out.
You know that he thinks this is crazy. But you talked about former Vice President of the United States Joe Biden picking this week. He announced that he's going to pick his Vice President candidate, which he needs to pick the person tomorrow. You know, we're all less than 100 days away from the election. We want to know who's going to be the vice president. And you have five strong contenders. You have Senator Kamala Harris, former U.S. Ambassador Susan Rice. You have Representative, United States Congresswoman Karen Buggs, I believe. And then you have Tammy Duckworth and the governor of Michigan is the top contenders for the vice presidentship. And you mentioned Susan Rice is also my top pick for vice president. If not Susan Rice, definitely Senator Kamala Harris to fall behind Ambassador Rice. Being Attorney General, that's a wait and see type of thing. I mean, okay, not my top pick for Attorney General, but when we're talking about vice presidentship, I think Susan Rice should be the candidate for vice president just because of her ability to work with President, well, at that point wouldn't be President Joe Biden, the relationship they've already built in the previous administration, and that she's just a great executive. You know, it's not about being a being a president, you have to govern, but there's also management role that comes with that, and you need someone in place to be president. The vice president should always be able to step up to be president if something happens to the president, and I think hands down, top 10, my pick would be for former U.S. Ambassador Susan Rice.
Look, this is what you've had for the past 4 years. You have somebody who was brought in who has no political experience whatsoever, which everybody at the time was saying, this is exactly what we need. We don't need a politician. We need somebody we need a businessman. Okay, well, you can check that off the list. He's not a businessman. He bankrupted 3 casinos. Okay, 3. I'll give you 1. Okay, I'll give you 1. This is a business where the house always wins. 3 of them. Okay, so you're not a businessman. But here's the biggest problem that you had. You had somebody who was in charge, on paper anyway, in charge, surrounded by a group of individuals who did not stand as individuals. They were, let's just say there was a lot of Carmex and an awful lot of chapstick bought in Washington over the past 4 years, because you got to protect yourself, because you can work up a lot of blisters on your lips, okay, trying to be that close to the president. Everybody was agreeing with him. Everybody was afraid to say anything. What you need is a return to Washington, where you're going to have certain individuals that are chosen to run certain departments that are answerable to the president, yes, but they also have to be able to have the, you need to have that fortitude, and you need to have the guts, and you need to be able to make the decisions that will be important at that time, at that place. Not have to run back to the White House to ask permission from somebody who has no reason to give permission for certain things that have happened. There are a number of situations that we're dealing with today. People are dying, okay? People are dying, and people have died because there was not anybody at the start of all this with COVID that had the guts to sit back and go, you know what, you're wrong, okay? And we need to get this back in place. We need to get this back in place. We may not be able to save everybody, but we're going to be able to save a number of people. You screwed up, okay? You screwed it up. If I screw up, I'm one of the first to admit it. My wife will admit it first. But you have to admit when you're wrong, and we have been wrong for a long time. We need to have Mr. Biden, I hope you're watching. And I hope your wife is watching, because the two of you are going to be able to lead. It's going to be great to be able to have a first lady who actually knows how to do things and be involved with things.
Are you endorsing?
No, I don't endorse anybody. I got money in my pocket. I'm just saying that the two of you are going to be able to, as you work through this, and I hope that you win it, and you're going to be able to pick the people that will be able to help pull this country back to the way it should be, because it's a mess right now. What we're dealing with all across the country, not just in Chicago this morning, but what we're dealing with across the country. This is, you see this in third world countries. You don't see this here. We're better than this. Fix it.
Well, speaking of the COVID-19, President Trump signed an executive order over the weekend. Was it an executive order or just a photo op? We'll find out more about that when we get right back here on LRP Exclusive. Stay tuned. Welcome back to LRP Exclusive, right here in beautiful downtown Hammond at the LRP Towers. We're talking about right now the executive order that was signed over the weekend to extend the relief and stimulus to the American people. This act signed on Saturday by the President of the United States calls for $400 a week in unemployment benefits. It also freezes payroll taxes for citizens as well as businesses, something Trump wanted to do in the previous plan that was not supported by neither the Democratic-controlled House of Representatives or the Senate-controlled, Republican-controlled Senate. So let's get right into this. Was this a executive order or was this a photo op? Over the weekend, after this executive order, Democratic House leader Nancy Pelosi came out and said this is unconstitutional. Congress controls the purse strings. Where would the president even find the money to fund this executive order? Now, what's your take on this?
The whole thing was a photo op. The whole thing is just the way that everything was handled with it, the amount of money that was cut from it. Teresa and I were talking about it yesterday. It's just another bully tactic that has come about on this end, on his end. He loves signing executive orders. As he signs them, people around him look at what he's doing, and again, it's the two sides. The two sides have never been more split. The one group is just applauding and saying, "Oh my God, this is great, Mr. President. You're doing a great job. This is wonderful. We love you." And the other people are going, "Really?"
Pretty much.
No, this is a joke. You're not going to. And then to be able to have, you got Steve Mnuchin coming on yesterday saying, "Okay, now here's the deal. Okay, we're going to go through all this, but when it's all said and done, Trump's going to get reelected, and the taxpayers are going to have to pay this money back. It's our money, right?" So yeah, it was a photo op. It was a goof, and I don't take anything from it at all seriously, because it's frightening.
Yes.
I got nothing else.
You got something else?
Nope.
All this national conversation.
My granny taught us that if you don't have anything nice to
I never met your grandmother.
say, to shut up.
Words of the wise shall always be sufficient, is what I hear. But I will get into this very deeply. You have to read the Constitution, people. And a lot of people don't. They just say, it's my First Amendment right to say what I want to say. Yeah, they got that part, but they don't read, it's like when you read the Bible, they get that.
They take the part they like.
The part they like,
Sure.
and they forgot about the A and C clause.
They went to the B appendix and C appendix and didn't look at it.
It's the same thing with the Constitution. I have the right to bear arms, and I have the right to say what I want to say, and then they don't read the rest of the Constitution. And the Article 1 of the Constitution gives powers to the President, it gives powers to the Congress, and they're all co-equal but separate branches of government. You have three. You have the judicial, you have the law, the Supreme Court, you have the legislative body, the body that controls the purse strings, the body that controls the appropriations, that gives the President permission to spend, is the Congress. And then you have the executive branch that carries out the laws set by the United States Congress and has the recommending law power to work with the Congress to create laws, etc. But the President is the commander-in-chief and to carry out the laws set forth by the Congress. What the President signed over the weekend, it is as equal as the toilet paper I used this morning. It has no value after it was used. That's as simple as I can put it. That it was just a photo op, and President Trump loved signing his name to paper and people clapping. Oh, we can write his name, but it was nothing of weight on that paper because where are you going to find the money? The money is gone. The money that Congress appropriated in this last stimulus bill, it is all gone. The President cannot go into the United States Treasury and direct funds unless it is approved by the United States Congress. That is simple. So everyone that got excited, and thank you, Mr. President, you don't know your Constitution. You didn't pass government econ. Something went wrong in high school that you don't understand, that the president has no authority with the executive order that was signed. It is unconstitutional. It's unlawful for the president to act on, or any cabinet secretary, anyone at the United States Treasury, anyone to act upon that recommendation. Plus, the states does not have the money to support the continual unemployment benefits without action from Congress. The states are overworked right now because they're utilizing all of their resources to enforce or to help find testing and things like that when it goes to corona. The additional manpower hours is going into our first responders to respond to the high rate in the COVID issues that were going on in previous months. They are running short on money, and that's why in this new stimulus bill passed by the House of Representatives is a $3 trillion price tag, because the House of Representatives want to send money to states and local municipalities such as school districts and mayor's offices to help with some of the extra spending that these municipal entities had to use because of their COVID response. And to believe it or not, and those that are really paying attention to this, it has been the local mayors, it has been the local governors that has had a bigger response to this COVID thing than the federal government, because again, at first it was just a hoax. It was just a made-up flu virus that came from China, and I'm quoting the President of the United States. So it was not taken serious at first. So the states and local governments that were seeing this in our own backyards had to act immediately. So those that are watching and those that are listening, understand that until the Congress, the Senate can approve a measure for this new relief, we are going to still not receive any unemployment. None of the things that are in that executive order is going to stick, because it does not have weight from the Congress to be able to act upon. Now, if it does, if someone says, I'm going to do it because I was directed to do it by my boss, the President of the United States, then those are other consequences that will take place later on. But as of right now, it's all political. And it's not just political on the Republican side. On the Republican side, it's also political on the Democratic side too. Because no one wants to work with each other because of this. In less than 100 days, we have to pick a side. We have to go to the polls and pick whether we want a Democrat president or we want to keep Donald Trump. So everyone want to make sure their base is strong. So what President Trump was doing was pandering to his base to say, okay, Congress won't act, so I'm going to have to act. And because no one in his base, and even in the Democratic base, won't read the Constitution, they're saying, yay, the president act. And then they wait on Friday or Monday or whenever the unemployment benefits hit, and they say, well, Mr. President, my benefits didn't come. What are you going to tell to your base at that point in time? Because you didn't have the power to really act on this. So Democrats, Republicans, President, Nancy, Chuck, Schumer, what's the gremlin name? The Senator, Mr. McConnell. Listen, you get paid $160,000+ a year by us, the American people, to do your job. You're the nation. Right now, there's 19 million cases of coronavirus throughout the world. 4.5 million of those cases are right here in the United States. 160,000+ deaths thus far. This is a serious issue. Get your politics out of it and get together and work for the American people. We're sending people back to school. And that's what, Tasha, you're here today to talk about that. She's a teacher.
I ain't going.
You're educated, an educator right here with us, and we're going to get back and come back and get right into some educational conversation. You go on to school. The president said you got to go. We'll be right back.
He don't know me.
Welcome back to LRP Exclusive. This has been a jam-packed show today, and we're finally, for the first time in weeks, being able to get everything off of our to-do list for the day done. I am excited about that. But we're going to end the day talking about a hot topic that's going on around the nation. Students returning to schools. Students in Florida returning to school, or schools in Georgia getting suspended because they're returning to school and they're posting pictures about the non-social distancing going on, and that student was suspended. And then after this thing goes viral, CNN picks it up and major news outlets pick it up, then they reverse the suspension that shouldn't happen in the first place, because she just said, hey, we're not safe here. What's going on? Over 100,000 students thus far have tested positive for the coronavirus in the United States, and yet we're sending kids back to school. So we have a teacher that's going back to school because the president says she has to, and we want to talk to her about that.
Let me tell you about how I'm from Inglewood, and you can't make me do nothing. No, my superintendent was so gracious and smart and intelligent. He recommended that we take semester 1 virtual, and we're so grateful that the school board voted in favor of his recommendation. I didn't know how we were going to be able to social distance with kids. Now, I teach 8th grade, and for some reason they're afraid of me. So I probably wouldn't have had a major problem, my team and I. However, you can't convince children whose brains literally are not developed enough to always understand. It's why you have to have adults guiding them. They don't understand. Listen, if you take this mask off, it could be so serious you could hurt yourself or your loved one or your granny, whatever that looks like. And so we're fortunate, but that wasn't everybody's case. I know in Chicago, they initially mentioned they were going to do a hybrid plan. And I was pretty nervous about that. I don't work for Chicago Public Schools anymore. I did. But I was concerned, like, okay, so if it's safe to go for 2 or 3 days, then, either it's safe to go for 2 or 3 days or it's not. So it couldn't be, well, we're going to do this hybrid piece. Coronavirus doesn't pick days off. So that didn't quite work out. And I think after some suburban districts decided we're not sending our kids and our teachers back, then I think the shift was made. And I think it was a wise move by the powers that be in Chicago. It would be exceedingly different. And here's what we know. We know that children come to school regardless of what's going on. It's their safe place. Parents have to work. Or outside of that, kids just want to come to school. They may be asymptomatic, so they won't know anything is going on. Or worse, they may know, but mom has to go to work, so I'm coming anyway. Or I'm going to try to keep socially distanced. I just won't tell anybody that, the doctor say I have this. I'll just kind of, that's so dangerous. And then you think about the demographic of teachers who may have underlying conditions. So you got the kids who have underlying conditions, because children, are children. And then you put in the older teachers, maybe older custodial staff, the administrators. It's just dangerous. Now, Don and I were talking this morning, and I know it's tough. I teach an older grade, but people who have babies and they have to go back to work, it's tough. I can't imagine what that's like. So I'm not here to, disparage any group. But I think the call would be worse if we had to make a call or get a call that say your baby got sick and passed away. So do I have the answer? But I know what the answer wasn't. And that wasn't to send us all back into the school system. It was noted when we were on commercial that 96,000 students have been diagnosed. 96,000 in the whole country? No, I'm not going back. So I made a plan. I have my stuff, my soap and my disinfectant, and I'm like that anyway. I'm kind of a germaphobe pre-coronavirus. But I did say to my parents, if they make us go back into the classrooms, I'm really glad you guys have iPads, because I ain't coming over here. Not because I don't want to see and touch them, but it's just not a risk I was willing to take. And I don't think sending the kids back is a good idea. It's a poor decision.
I just want to throw this in too, because I've seen this not just on social media, but I've heard this on news reports from people that are, there was one person in particular who said, I'm going to send my kids back. I'm going to send them in. I've done my own research. I know. I've got the information. We can do this. Okay, well, first of all, if you for some reason have the great Rosetta Stone for all of this, you mind sharing it with
I'm
everybody
saying.
so that we can get this out? You didn't do your own research of it. You're just you're following the path. Okay? Tasha and I talked about it this morning, and she said it, and I'll echo it. You're dealing with children who were put into a very comfortable zone. They're back at home with their families. The families are home because they can't work. Now all of a sudden you're taking them out of that and you're sending them to a very hostile environment where there's a virus out there. They were working in a classroom where they're all in rows at their desks.
Or groups or
now
whatever.
they're put into a shell. Okay, there are school districts that are building shells for these students to sit in. And if you've got somebody who's 6 years old, 7 years old, they don't grasp this. Now all of a sudden they're put into that, coming from the comfort zone of the family, put into a shell. It doesn't make any sense. You've got students, you've got teachers around the country who are quitting because of this. My sister was a teacher in Milwaukee for one of the school districts up there. I talked to her again yesterday. She said there is no way that she would have gone back. She can't do it, she won't do it. There's people that she knows that are just flat out refusing to do it. It's almost like you're watching a sporting event where you've got rival teams going at it with this. Use your sense, use your head. Talk to people like Tasha. Talk to people that have the right information from the districts. Then make up your mind.
A gentleman I was dating noted that you knew it was serious when they canceled sports. Here late, because you brought up sports, it made me think. So now here it is that they have reopened the sports world, and what's going on?
Everybody's sick.
Everybody's sick. So you gonna send the babies back?
Mm-hmm.
Are you just sadistic? No.
Well, I'm hearing that the kids are immune to COVID-19, and
You may want to tell that to a couple of the kids from the Chicago area who had it and were sitting in the
It's
respirator
horrible
right now.
to even use them as guinea pigs, them and the staff that love them. And again, that's everybody. That's from the lunch lady to the administrators to, the custodians, to the people, the crossing guards, or to the people who just volunteer to stand on the street, to watch kids going to, no. Kids love you. They want to hug you. Some kids don't get hugs at home. They, we have to have boundaries, but it's, can I hug you, Ms. Clopton? Okay. But they need that. They are not going to hear me if I say, I would always have to be aggressive to get them off of me. I don't want to treat them like that either. They get enough of that. So, no, we all need to be at home.
And to the president's tout of the kids are immune to it, we do know cases in Florida where a 21-year-old and a 20-year-old has lost their life because of COVID. A 9-year-old in Georgia lost their life because of COVID. 6-month-old in North Dakota lost their life to COVID-19. And these are young people with strong immune systems that are still losing their lives to COVID. So COVID-19 is not, it does not care who you are, it doesn't care your age, it doesn't care your race, it doesn't care your gender. It is a virus. It is not a person. It's a virus that is coming to find a host where it can survive. A virus it does not want to kill you. But what it's trying to do is trying to, anybody seen the movie Venom?
Yes.
Just watch the movie Venom.
No.
That explains a virus, all right? I don't have to get into the scientific way. You need a visual of what a virus does. It's trying to find a host. It's trying to survive. It doesn't want to die. It doesn't want you to die. But while it's trying to latch on to you, it is developing and it's trying to survive, but it's also killing you at the same time. So, pay attention. And we cannot use our kids as a guinea pig. But I do want to say this, and this may, I don't want anyone to think this is contradicting anything I say or have said about sending students to back to school, because Governor Cuomo in New York has said that schools are okay to open in New York. And people was like, wait a minute, what? Here, Governor Cuomo is saying the opposite of what most states are saying. It goes back to what Dr. Fauci said. When the reopening guidelines came out, and states rushed to reopen, and some states like New York did not rush to reopen. I think New York had the most strictest guidelines of reopening than any state in the union, period, point blank. And New York has some of the greatest doctors and the greatest infrastructure to deal with this than any other state, because that governor has invested the time to make sure that this thing can open. And yes, it's going to be a hybrid model, but most states and most counties in the state of New York will reopen to in-person classes. You know, I'm going to say this, and I'm saying it live, and I hope it doesn't come off wrong, that I support Governor Cuomo's reopening guidelines for the educational system in New York, due to the fact of the guidelines that's in place to maintain social distancing, looking at the numbers and how New York has been able to not only balance the curve but jump in front of the curve when it comes to the coronavirus, where other states and many states are not as strong as Governor Cuomo and has not stood up to their constituents to make sure that, hey, we're going to get in front of this curve and we're going to balance our numbers. Yes, all over the country things are spiking out of control, and we knew that was coming because Dr. Fauci said back in March there will be a second phase of this thing. You know, but some states that did not follow those guidelines, if you cannot handle your state reopening on a statewide basis, you definitely can't handle it from an educational standpoint and trying to figure out how we're going to keep students safe and social distance. Florida, the governor, and one thing I can't stand about people of power, and here I am, a former president of an educational system, I never, when a student says something bad about me, I didn't go and blast a student. That's a student. How insensitive and for this grown adult to
real ego
to lash out on a student. So a student in Florida mentioned that, we're not going back to school, and posted some things about, you know, the governor, and the governor lashed out on a student, almost like President Trump lashed out on Bridget from what country is Bridget from? I can't think of her name. She's the spokesperson on the economy, social, global warming. I can't think of a name, but I'll have it for you tomorrow. But when you are at a grown blank adult and you are lashing out on students because of their input, as a former student, when I was in school, I was on the Intercity Student Council, President Student Council. I held our elected officials to the fire. I never one time got tongue lashed by the adults in the room. But you're the adults in the room. Let us say our piece. As long as you're peaceful, all right, go about your business. But to actually get into a contest of intelligence, which one of those persons that I mentioned can't.
They came equipped with a spoon to the intelligence fight.
to handle that, but it is what it is. We are out of time, guys. We went to 6 minutes over, but you know, Don runs the place, so he said we could do it. So we did go over a little bit. But Tasha, please come back with us. It's always fun to have you.
To be after 3 o'clock. Now we're back.
Oh, we have a special after 3 o'clock. That's fine. It can be after hour type of conversation on education. You know, we all needed those moments. Any closing remarks, Don?
No, I think I did enough damage today. Thank you very much.
Tasha, any closing remarks?
I just appreciate being here as always. You know, support each other, all that fun stuff, because we're all still in this pandemic, coupled with all the other things that are going on.
It's not over. The pandemic's still here.
It is.
Interesting. Stay tuned. We have a huge announcement on our guest for Wednesday. Dr. Cheryl Pruitt breaks her silence after 3 years of being attacked by the state of Indiana. She'll be right here on the LRP exclusive on Wednesday, so stay tuned. It's going to be very exciting.